Hello there. While people in Great Britain are quite suffering from the rising cost of living and there's still the race to succeed him, British Prime Minister Boris Johnson is posing at a military airport like Tom Cruise in the cinema hit Top Gun, or now Maverick. While the rest of Britain struggled to find a successor, Johnson visited the Royal Air Force Base in Lincolnshire. He visited the Eurofighter Typhoon fighter jets stationed there. Johnson dressed up appropriately. The caretaker Prime Minister ran across the airfield in an aviator gear and sat in the cockpit of a jet. He obviously tried to stage himself like the flying ace Maverick from the Top Gun films. He wanted to get a behind-the-scenes look at the rapid alert stations that he says protect Britain airspace. The base houses two combat-capable squadrons and the Typhoon pilot training station. Johnson himself is on the way down, though. He resigned from his government team earlier this month after countless protests. The Conservative politician had previously struggled with one scandal after another, as you all know. So meanwhile, the fight to succeed Johnson is heating up. There are currently 5 other candidates in the running for the Tories' top post. Former Chancellor of the Exchequer Rishi Sunak, Foreign Secretary Liz Truss, Chairman of the Foreign Affairs Committee in the House of Commons Tom Tugendhat, and Secretary of Commerce Penny Mordaunt, and of course former Equal Opportunities Officer Kemi Badenoch. The next votes in the group with 358 members are planned for today. On Wednesday, it should then be clear between which 2 candidates the party members will decide in a runoff. The result, and thus Johnson's successor as party and government leader, should be known by September 5th at the latest. The applicants are not too far apart on many topics. Nobody doubts Brexit, and there is consensus on the Johnson's government's controversial plans. All announce, as demanded by the majority of the party, tax cuts. British Prime Minister Boris Johnson leaves behind a devastating economic record. But that's not entirely his fault, but most of it. His successor will have to take care of several problems. So, the outgoing British Prime Minister Boris Johnson has found little support for his ambitious plan to link Scotland to Northern Ireland with a £300 billion bridge, which the media promptly dubbed the Celtic Crossing. It was just as crazy as a project as the Garden Bridge, a green footbridge over the Thames, which he had commissioned to plan when he was Mayor of London. Well, the bridge to Northern Ireland was just, bigger. Start many things and finish nothing. That seems to be the leitmotif under which Johnson's economy policy decisions can be summarized. Contrary to what was promised in the Tories' election manifesto, taxes and duties were not reduced but increased, and the state apparatus was further inflated. 6 years after the vote to leave the EU, relations with Brussels are still tense as well. The dispute over the Northern Ireland Protocol is deadlocked. The country is effectively divided. There are customs checks on goods moving between the north of the Emerald Isle and the rest of the UK because Northern Ireland remains subject to the rules of the common market. A solution has not yet emerged because the British didn't accept anything. By the end of Johnson's tenure, the country's debt has risen by nearly £600 billion. That's nearly £100 billion more than Labour Prime Minister Gordon Brown took on to deal with the financial crisis. Economic output is beginning to shrink and inflation is headed for 10% or 11%. But Johnson cannot be blamed for the pandemic nor for the war in Ukraine and its impact on energy prices. So let's stay with the infrastructure for now. His idea of building a new major airport on the island in the Thames, or the Thames estuary, that would meet the capacity requirements of the British metropolis failed because the operators of the existing airports did not want their companies to be able to operate in this way. And the badly needed new runway at Heathrow was not tackled either. As MP for the Uxbridge constituency directly affected, Johnson had announced that he would lie down in front of the bulldozers to prevent such a track. His support for the project as Prime Minister was correspondingly muted. His enthusiasm for the HS2 high-speed rail link, designed to link Scotland and the disadvantaged north of England to the capital, also quickly waned, because MPs from the ruling party feared for their re-election because local residents did not want to be blocked by the train or don't want to have their view blocked. He has just as little found a remedy for the all-crippling NIMBYism, so that means not in my backyard, of the Conservative electorate as a solution to the energy crisis. For Johnson, not cheap energy for all, but climate protection was at the top of the agenda. He liked being the world savior at the Glasgow Climate Summit alongside BBC wildlife filmmaker David Attenborough. It's not unusual for British Conservatives to have a strong commitment to protecting the environment. His predecessor Theresa May enshrined her ambitions net zero target in law at the end of her term. But Johnson had no solution to offer for the transition to a zero-emission economy by 2050 that she envisioned. Great Britain would become the Saudi Arabia of the wind, he had announced full-bodied. The country is indeed well on the way there, but other technologies such as CO2 capture and storage or hydrogen drives, which were apparently assumed when the climate targets were formulated, have yet to prove themselves. The new Hinkley Point C nuclear power plant in Somerset, which is being built by the French state-owned company EDF, together with the China General Nuclear Power Group, will go online in June 2027 at the earliest. There is a lack of investors for the increased use of nuclear energy advocated by Johnson. They no longer want state-owned companies from the People's Republic on board, and other investors have so far not believed in the profitability. Even if the necessary funds could be raised, the new power plants would come too late to fill the gap when the old reactors go offline. His successor will have to make the uncomfortable decisions, approving the development of new oil and gas deposits, including fracking. Should gas become even more scarce, the demand on environmental protection could also be scaled back. Then there would suddenly be plenty of fuel available from the North Sea. For the time being, the listed power plant operator Drax in Yorkshire has to burn coal longer than planned so that the lights don't go out in winter. Of course, one must not forget Johnson's achievements either. It is thanks to him that Northern Ireland did not have to be de facto ceded in the EU exit treaty. He extracted concessions that no one who has followed Theresa May's negotiations would have believed possible. But he wants to scale back on that. And during the pandemic, the UK was vaccinated quite fast. Because the government had not relied on the usual channels for vaccine procurements, but had taken innovative paths, enough vaccine doses were available, from the EU, by the way. A generous short-time work scheme ensured that millions kept their jobs. We had the same here in Germany, by the way. The country had good conditions to quickly recover from the effects of the exit restrictions. Anyone who needed a loan to get their business through the crisis usually got one. But Johnson was too quick to give the issue back to the health bureaucracy, which kept introducing new restrictions to ensure that the upswing could not get off the ground. Sometimes it's important to get things done, and I don't mean Brexit. Many Britons will hope that his successor will not lose interest in subjects so quickly and show more attention to detail. That's really not Boris's thing. And of course, I mustn't forget to point out something important again. Tonight at 6 p.m. CET, the first video goes online on my Outside Views military channel. Please remember to subscribe to this channel as well, and you can find the link to that channel in the video description of this video. I'll see you there. Schau vorbei.